Hello and welcome to Industry Today, the podcast powered by MTC Events. My name is Lauren Chambers and today I am delighted to be here with Tom Flude, apprentice turned engineer turned entrepreneur and co-founder of Engineers Insight. Tom also hosts his own podcast series, Through the Eye, so he is certainly no stranger to this environment, just now on the other side of the conversation. So Tom, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I've mentioned you've had quite a journey. You've obviously started out as an engineering apprentice and then led you to launching your own tech company. What was the light bulb moment that led you to launching Engineers Insight?
Light bulb moment was I was working for a big Japanese robot company and I was sat in a meeting with the marketing director and he showed me an invoice from one of the trade mags for 10k. And see, I'm already trying not to swear because I did swear in the moment. And I said, who reads it? And why is it that much money? And he said, I have no idea, but if I don't spend my budget, I'm going to lose it next year. So that was the light bulb moment. It was like, I was 25, 26, and I knew that I wasn't reading trade mags. And I knew that the generation after me wouldn't know what a magazine was. So that was the moment that I thought, someone needs to go digital. Someone should have gone digital 10 years before me. So yeah, the original idea was, let's build a mobile app because no one else has. Let's centralize the information that you would take from like picture ads that you would see in trade mags, but then take it a step further and give the resources so then the engineers can access the CAD files and the manuals and the videos and send the inquiries through that. And then it just keeps spiraling and it's getting bigger and bigger. And I'm trying to handle that.
It started out as an advertising platform, but has grown legs based on demand from what people actually want from the information you're providing them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lesson in it for any startup founder is that what you think you're building is not what you're building. So when I was still employed, like most startup founders, it's hard to take the risk when you've got a mortgage to pay. But I then took wireframes to shop floors and spoke to my customers, spoke to engineers on shop floors and asked them what they wanted. And then it started growing legs. That was when we got the idea for resource because we thought we'd just go and disrupt the print industry. We'd just take them same images, put them on a news feed and just have like the brochure attached and a bit of info. Mm-hmm. And then engineers were like, well, that's great. But actually our real pain point is where does the manual live? Because if you're a machine builder with 20, 30 brands, products on a machine, that's 20, 30 different websites. Yeah. Document centers all look different. The manuals go obsolete every time you save them locally. So then it was like, okay, well then let's build a bookmark area so they could build their own document center. And we don't hold anything ourselves. It lives on live URLs, so it doesn't go obsolete. And then there's so many things that we do now that...
Tell us.
We're going to start. So the app. Yeah, let's start with the app. So the app is about centralizing resource. Yeah. Give an engineer everything they need in their phone because people need access to things instantaneously these days. You can now apply for jobs. So we work with a few recruiters, built a jobs board, search keywords and distance from postcodes, quite simple. But we're just like a shop window. We just auto email that CV with the user details to the right recruiter. We don't get involved in that. And then we started doing media. So you mentioned the podcast. I was frustrated with my boring LinkedIn feed. You know, so we'll use frustrated instead of what I would normally say. So I seen a few people make podcasts and they were just so dry and boring and it would end up being a sales pitch. And really the person watching or listening doesn't want to be sold to, just want to hear a story and everyone's got a story to tell. So that's where ours went with Through the Eye. It was people are more than an email address or LinkedIn profile. So let's just ask them about their life. Where did they grow up? What do they want to be when they're older? Challenges they've faced. And of course, different topics come up, but we all face similar things like how do you deal with losing your parents? How do you deal with being made redundant multiple times? How did you get that promotion? Or what's it like running business with hundreds of employees? Them sorts of questions. Then we started doing our own content because again, content is very boring from manufacturers. There's one that a few people always pick out and say, oh, I love that video. And it was this sort of content you would see on YouTube or TikTok, but the camera was in my fridge and I'd open the fridge and then the next scene would be me and my 2-year-old's ball pit, my face, just not manufacturing content, but it still lands. So then we started selling that to manufacturers. So we do quite a lot now on brand and people, authenticity, I think the way content is going, and it's already moved in other industries, we're just behind, is that it's the founder's story or it's senior leadership story. It's not posting from the company LinkedIn page anymore. It's actually who is the person that I'm going to buy from.
100%, yeah.
So we're just doing one yesterday with 3 founders of a company. We did a bit of interview, but it was actually like, what do you do in your downtime, and what do you think X would say about you to me? And then we did a bit of B-roll of them awkwardly, the elevator door opening and the 3 of them trying to get out, and just trying to break that sort of corporate wall. Do
you think that's a challenge that the manufacturing sector faces, that it's all a bit too corporate?
It's too corporate, it's too
traditional?
Bland, very traditional.
Yeah.
Everything we do is traditional. And of course, the average age in industry is 56. So you have to also meet a demographic.
Of course.
But you're losing the imagination of young people. And they switch off. You got 3 seconds to hook someone on a video. If they're going to click on your company video and it is 5 middle-aged white blokes in a white shirt stood next to a white backdrop talking about their culture and values for an hour, no one cares. Like, how do you cut that up into a 20-second clip for TikTok and show people what the actual business does and what the factory looks like? I think that's the gap that we potentially fill.
Yeah.
So the content bit, the one that we've just launched is called Through the Factory.
Yeah.
So showcasing British manufacturing to schools.
So the whole skills STEM piece we talk about on pretty much every podcast that we do, regardless of what we're focusing on. But because it's so important, and we talk about the skills shortage, we talk about the gap, and I guess, like you say, that's something you're trying to address through your new content. How else do you think as a sector we do that? How do we get more people? If you say the average age of the workforce in the UK manufacturing sector is 56, at some point we're going to need to bring that down, or we're going to need to get the new cohort of people in. Where do we start with that? How do we do that?
I've got a couple of opinions on this. One of which is probably the elephant in the room, in that so I started doing all these talks about skills gap and how do we change perceptions, how do we get young kids in, how do they look at industry different, instead of thinking of what is my dad in blue overalls and covered in oil, still is now nearly 60, always has been. The elephant in the room is actually if the industry doesn't turn around, there's no jobs for the kids to go into.
Okay.
Which also, it always raises an eyebrow when I say it on panels at shows, but it's the truth. I've actually had feedback from one of the skills hubs is that they've now got a pool of talent that are qualified and no jobs for them to go into. They can't find a job for them, which is the scary part. And people are like, well, we've been talking about skills for decades longer than you have. Okay, but no one's done anything about it, really. I think someone said to me, there's 1,800 STEM programs in the UK at the minute. And my frustration was I would go to a school, do an assembly to 300 kids, and the minute you've left, they've forgot everything you've said. And then there's a speaker from the armed forces the next week, and they'd listen to them for an hour and they'd forget what they'd said. So it's the reason Through the Factory, it's why we wanted to build that, is because you've got to be where kids are, and it's content, it's YouTube and it's TikTok and it's Instagram Reels.
Yeah.
The partnership with the D&T Association means that D&T teachers will show kids through classrooms anyway. And then you've got to hope that other teachers also buy into that. Because that's also a challenge, is that we could show potentially 1 million or so kids through D&T, but it's their parents, when they go home, is their opinion still that we don't want you to be an engineer because it's dull and dirty and dangerous and it's not very well paid? Because then the content also needs to reach them.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that when they're in other classrooms and they're not engaging, and the teacher says, well, if you don't listen, you're going to end up working in a factory or in a warehouse? That needs to change pretty sharpish. I've sort of forgotten what your original question was, because I've got so many different things going on in my head around skills. Changing perception is the biggest one that I think about often, because I grew up in a traditional factory.
But you did an engineering apprenticeship.
I did.
And how did that come
about? That was much cleaner than what you expect.
Right.
So my family owned a machine tool fitting company in Coventry. So my granddad started it. My dad, uncle worked there forever. I grew up around it, but it was all oil and swarf and dirty and stunk. Naked women posters on the walls and, traditional I missed a bit out of my keynote actually, that I had, that I talked through around like how dirty and stuff it was. And I remember saying to my nan one day, why are there so many topless calendars on the walls? And she smiled at me and she said, keeps the blokes happy. And I remember even back then, I was like, this isn't right. So I think change of perception is the main thing going into an apprenticeship. So my family then said to me, don't become a mechanical engineer, there's no money in it.
Okay.
And I think they were probably just bitter that family business, too many long hours, not much money.
Yeah.
So become an electrical engineer. And I really didn't know, because my view of engineering was oil.
Yeah. Even
when I went out on site with my dad, it was like I'd come home stinking of oil. I hate it. So I got lucky actually that my godfather was an application engineer at Schneider Electric. And one day he brought home this demo box with spinning servos and a HMI and flashing lights. And I thought, yeah, that's what I want to do. So I applied for the apprenticeship there. We were one of two apprentices that took on, first apprentices that took on out of Coventry. And I got lucky again that there was a guy in the team that was a drives application engineer that just took a shining to me, took me under his wing, and I became a drives apps engineer. Yeah.
So you've grown up in and around manufacturing,
Yep.
and like you say, the grubby, grimy
Yep.
world of manufacturing that is the perception that we need to change and shift. What about those kids out there that don't have any experience so they may still have that view, but they don't have the family support behind them, the legacy of dads, granddads working in manufacturing? How do you engage with them?
That's the hope with the content, is that that's how we engage with them. There's obviously a lot of, like I said, 1800 STEM programs, but people are going into schools, people are going to careers events and stuff like that. I'm on a steering group of one that's about to start in February called West Midlands Manufacturing Festival, which will be in Dudley. I'm going to get it wrong. Angela's going to kill me if I got it wrong. But she'll be busing in schools to show them what SMEs do in their area and hopefully open their eyes to what manufacturing looks like. I think that's really important. That's the only real way that we do it. I mean, on the bigger view is that news needs to change. The way that the public perceives manufacturing needs to change. Robots aren't taking jobs. Actually, we need more robots.
Yeah.
The thing that people forget is that if we don't automate, we're not productive, but we don't compete. If we don't compete, we lose jobs because factories can't build stuff here.
Yeah.
We lose it to Asia or wherever.
Yeah.
I think people are so focused on, if they put a robot there, they're going to take someone's job. That's not the reality. I think news scaremongering is a big issue. For
sure. It's the thing that people jump on top of because it's in all the headlines. Yep. And, life is very hard for a lot of people, right?
Yep.
So they, and that's how people make headlines. It's scaremongering, isn't it? It's that fear factor. So potentially there's a piece around these new technologies as well that could potentially capture kids' imaginations. We are talking about children here, right? We're talking about going all the way down to kind of primary school, potentially age, to get people engaged and actually getting them excited by this new tech rather than their parents telling them, don't go down that route because there won't be a job for you at the end because of this tech.
Yes, totally agree.
So you are involved, like you say, you've got steering groups, you do a lot of public speaking. What do you say when you speak to kids, to teenagers? How do you get their buy-in? Like you say, showing them what's literally behind the factory door,
Yep.
hence, through the
Yep.
factory. Is that a big barrier for people? They just don't really understand it?
Yes. So before through the factory, when I would go and do talks at schools and stuff, I would talk about my career and actually it's not dirty, blah, blah, blah. And the one thing that would always come up is, how much money can I earn? And I'd always say, well, how much money do you want to earn? Because there's never, ever been a better opportunity to become an engineer and earn lots of money, travel the world, be at the forefront of technology. These kids can be at the forefront of AI and deep learning and robots and data. Industry 4.0 will probably be Industry 5.0 by the time they're in careers. The opportunity is theirs. what I've found recently is that I've been slowly morphing into my dad in that I sat on a panel recently and it was like 40 kids from a college in the audience. I'd say 30 of them were looking at the phone, didn't engage in any of it. Like, you already chose to be on engineering courses. And I was trying to give them a wake up without, taking over the panel. I felt myself grab the mic on someone. And it's like, go and walk the room. Like, go and ask people what they're looking for. Go and look at their machines, ask them questions, be inquisitive, be curious. Because, everyone in this room is screaming out for talent. And all you've got to do is show a bit of initiative.
Yeah.
And you'd walk into a very well-paid job. It's trying to get them to see that.
Yeah.
At 16 to 18, it's quite a difficult age, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And it's the people around them, though, like you say, you need to engage with them, but you need to engage with their support network as well.
Yes. Yeah, it's not just them. I think there's also a cultural difference. The UK doesn't see engineering as up there with being a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah.
Whereas quite a lot of South Asian countries do.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a significant career to go into, and the parents would push their kids to.
Yeah.
I think that's also a barrier, is that, going back to like the assemblies I used to do, I'd ask them, what do you think of when, say, engineer? And they'd say all the normal things. Then I'd say, well, what do you want to be? And as you can imagine, it's a social media influencer.
Of course.
It's sports, football, golf, whatever it might be, Formula One. And it's then trying to, and it's not up to me or people in industry to do it. It's their own support network to be like, you might not be a footballer. It's what my parents said to me. I thought at one point I would be. And they were like, no, actually, you need to do well at school and you need to have a backup and a career plan. I think that's what's missing.
Yeah.
I think kids just think that because being a streamer is so popular,
and
pays so much
seemingly
money.
so accessible.
Yeah. Just talk to your phone and you'll make millions.
Yeah.
It's still the 0.000% same as a footballer.
Of course, yeah. Just the 2025, 2026 version of that, right?
Yes.
So, you referenced earlier about the idea behind Engineers Insight came obviously in working busy full-time job, and you were kind of managing the two. How hard has it been being in the world of startups, being an entrepreneur? Well, it's not for the faint-hearted. What are kind of the challenges and lessons that you've come across? For those that think, I've got an idea. Where do I start? What do I do?
Don't do it. No, joking. No, do it. It's something that I don't really talk about often. It's the sacrifice you have to make. Sacrifice your family has to make. So Engineers Insight, the initial idea was 2019. We're now 6 years on, and really a lot of people don't know I exist or it exists. So it's not a overnight thing, building a startup. But of course, I couldn't just leave my job and go into it full time. I had to convince my fiance at the time, when I'm married, I had to convince her of the business plan. I didn't really have a business. I've never believed in business plans because I just make it up as I go. I had to convince her that we should rent our house out, move back to my mum and dad's with the dog.
How did that go?
Well, it happened. There was a lot of long discussions about it happening. It happened. The plan was 6 to 12 months, rent our house out, so we've got no bills, and I can take the leap. But then, of course, life gets in the way. We got married in that time. 12 months or 6 to 12 months turned into 18 months. Then she fell pregnant. So we were like, we need a house because we can't have this baby at mum and dad's.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden it was like this mad rush of, we need to get back in the house, get the tenants out. And then the money that we saved, she then wanted new beds and new flooring, so we spent it anyway. So it was an experience living back at mum and dad's. We're actually just about to do it again.
Okay.
So we've just sold our house, but the house that we've reserved isn't going to be ready till June. So it's probably going to be 4 or 5 months. This time she's going to give birth whilst we're living there.
Okay.
So baby number 2 is on the way, but due middle of April.
Right.
So that's another
Babysitter's on
challenge.
tap though, right? With your parents.
Well, very true. Yeah, it is nice to have your own space though. So I think it's the sacrifice. Like I've missed friends' weddings, I've missed stag do's, I've missed nights out. I will work most evenings on a weekend. Before we had Arthur, our 2-year-old, like I would work weekends anyway. My co-founder is still in his day job, so we would only work on an evening after he'd put his kids to bed to try and build the platform. So unless you're going to go and raise millions of pounds, it's not that straightforward. It's a lot of dedication and hard work to just get it off the ground. And most businesses fail in the first 2 years. So there's also that you got to think of. I suppose we've found enough proof that there's something to build. We've got like 50-something customers now. So yeah, sacrifice is something people don't really know about.
Is that the side of entrepreneurship that you think isn't talked about enough? Yeah.
Well, you go on Instagram and it's Lamborghinis and Rolexes.
Yeah.
I'm still driving my mum's Astra that I borrowed 5 years ago. I can't afford a car yet.
What keeps you going? What's the obviously you super believe in what you're doing, and like you say, it doesn't happen. Success doesn't happen overnight. What gets you up every day? What keeps you going?
Oh God, we could go deep here. I mean, on the surface, it's family. I've got a young family. It's paying mortgages and bills. But then a little bit deeper is freedom. Yeah. So I get to do what I want. The
easier option, I guess, would be to go and back into a full-time job, and you can do those things. You can support your family, you can pay. But that clearly isn't what you set out to do, is it, with what you've developed?
No, I think my value is connection and networks and building community. I've somehow got the buy-in of so many people that I would never have spoken to before if I was still in a corporate life. So there must be something there. I suppose the deeper thing is, how do I build legacy? How do I make change? How do, if I didn't do it, who would? Probably no one, because people like the status quo. Yeah. It's one of the reasons that startups take so long to get off the ground. It's hard to change people. When I thought of the idea in 2019, I knew then that someone should have did it 10 years before me. No one had. People just sit on their laurels, Yeah. And it's a risk, isn't it? And it's, it's the unknown, and, change for people is scary, right? People need to be brave, and I guess be in a position where they can do it. You make sacrifices to do that. It's not as easy as people might sometimes think, or, social media would make young kids think, potentially. You talked about connection and kind of growing a community, and you have your podcast, you speak a lot of events, you engage in schools. How important is that connection in helping engineers learn and grow, do you think? I think firstly, to end on entrepreneurship, I think that connection and network is the most important thing. Not necessarily networking with other entrepreneurs, in London, having drinks and stuff. I've never done that. We've never raised any money, so we've never been in them rooms. But actually, what I have built is a network of business owners. So there's an association called Connex Portal. There's about 300 SMEs in it. But we have regular get-togethers and talk about like the true reality of business and the issues that all of us face. That's really important, because you also need other people's perspective to work out your own. When we talk around connection for an engineer, whenever I speak to young engineers, I tell them, set up your LinkedIn profile, make yourself visible. I know people don't like putting themselves out there, but that is the way that you will grow. It's the way that you will grow in your career as well. And you can still do that in a way that's comfortable and fitting for you and how you want to be. You don't have to tell everyone your life. I think it's important to have something out there that people know you exist. You could just show what you're doing, especially young engineers. Like the amount of engagement they would get if they just posted, this is what I've done today. And just showing the picture of a panel that they've wired up, because there's so many of us in industry that are like desperate to support people like that they'd get way more likes and stuff than I get. There's a young lad that I know that started doing it on TikTok. Josh Bradshaw. He's an apprentice at Incom, and he just started doing a day in the life videos of just wiring a control panel or programming a PLC. You got like 25,000 followers like within the first 5 or 6 posts. Like brilliant, because people want that content.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be a full-on TikToker, but you could quite easily become a very well-known engineer just by showing people what you do.
What you're doing, yeah. So what's next for you and Engineers Insight? What does success look like for you?
Oh, I'm a millionaire and I'm sort of... success is that we made change.
Yeah.
We're just about to roll out a project at a very big college to embed the app into not necessarily curriculum officially, but it would take a step up of the lecturer saying, press this button on this 3D printer, to actually, if anything ever goes wrong with that, all of the information you need exists in Engineers Insight. So then 650 college kids at this one campus would use the app to maintain the robots, and then if that works, we'll roll out across multiple. Success is that the young engineers live in Engineers Insight, and that they have a free tool that when they come on shop floors, they would use it. Because it's hard to convince an older engineer to change. Mm-hmm. They're already looking for retirement. What we want is that the next generation of engineers bought into our brand 5 years before they became an official engineer.
Yeah.
The other thing around content is we have some sort of impact on the skills gap that through the factory becomes the content piece that does convince 1 million kids to become engineers. Mm. Because who else would be able to say they've convinced 1 million kids to be engineers? No one. So I think success is change, and people don't like change. So you bang your head against the brick wall until it does change. I'm 6 years in doing that.
Still going.
Yeah, head's bruised. But...
What gives you hope about the next generation of engineering?
I think it's native to them.
Okay.
They've already grew up around it. It's why we went with an app, because they expect an app to have existed 10 years ago. I think of my 2-year-old, like, maybe I shouldn't admit this. It sounds like we're like TV parents. But he'll navigate YouTube. Like, he's not even 2 yet.
Yeah.
And he knows like the thumbnails and what he needs to click. And then I caught him the other day. My phone was rested up the sofa, and one of my group messages was going off, and the messages bar kept coming down, and he just kept flicking it up.
In his way.
Yeah. Like, this kid's like 18 months old, he's flicking, and I'm like, oh, we probably shouldn't give you my phone too often, but that shows where everything's going. Like, the next generation of engineers will already live in that. They'll already understand AI. They're already using it on their coursework and stuff at the minute. It's a problem in schools. But so the thing that gives me hope is that we don't have to convince the kids that already want to be engineers to look at technology. They expect industry to be ahead of where we are. I think that's the exciting bit, is actually the next generation will push industry.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Tom. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
You can catch Tom's podcast Through the Eye on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Same place where you can catch all past episodes of Industry Today. As always, if you feel inspired by the conversation today or want to leave any feedback, then we would love to hear from you. We will be back next month with our next episode. We hope to see you then.